What an all-star panel this is, and a diverse collection of middle-aged white men we could find for this evening to discuss. Joining us, of course, is the legend, the man who knows more than most here at Sky News, in fact, more than anyone else. That'd be Graham Richardson. How are you, sir?
I wish it was true.
Well, I'm talking you up. As we'll talk up Michael Kroger. How are you, sir?
You agree with me more often, you know, that'd be helpful.
Well, there's got to be a little bit of contrast. Hugh McDermott, who joins us from New South Wales ALP. How are you, sir?
Good, mate.
My colleague at Radio 2UE would be John, my goodness, he does tomorrow. Jason Morrison, how are you, mate?
The second youngest on the panel tonight.
Yeah, thank you. All right, and Gary Hardgrave, the best thing about Brisbane Radio, the former Howard Government Minister and Logie Award winner, presenter of the Wombat program in the 1980s. How are you, mate?
Well, look, Paul, middle age doesn't start till you're 65 or 70, so I don't actually qualify.
All right, good.
Wonderful, neither do I.
Yeah, good. All right, that's all. Well, this young, sprightly, young Liberal, young Greens conference that we've got going on here. All right, now, Richo, surprise, surprise. The 7th was always going to happen because we had that scenario where he wasn't going to wait till the 21st and the 14th was Gillard's date.
That's right, he couldn't go on Gillard's date. I was hoping he'd go the 31st of August, but they wanted to get this economic statement out first, so they did that Friday, so it was pretty natural it would be done today.
Yeah, it is that thing, though, where I've got to say, Michael, it's amazing that you've got Kevin Rudd wanting to run on the economy 3 days after, essentially, they've said, hey, we've sort of stuffed up one or two little issues here.
Look, I just heard Janet Albertson say that Penny Wong had the last 2 years and the next 2 years, 4 years where she was wanting to be finance minister, obviously, if they're re-elected. Yeah. She's been out by 106 billion in those 4 years in terms of forecasts from the 11-12 budget onwards. Now, you know, I don't think it's a good idea for Wong to be the campaign spokesman. I don't think it's a good idea for Rudd to be running on the economy. He should find other bullets to fire, not that one.
Your thoughts here? No giant surprise. It had to be now. The longer that he went, the more he looked like a squatter in office, didn't he?
Well, I think the other thing is the community were picking up on what at least a third of the caucus had already worked out, and that is the more they saw of Kevin, the less they liked him. And frankly, every day $100 million goes on to the debt, so it goes up 3.3 billion or whatever it is in the next 33 days. So, yeah, the longer he went, the less people liked him. And I think that's what's going to be telling over the next 33 days. So people don't believe this bloke. They believed him in 2007. They voted for him and, you know, fooled me once, shame on you. Fooled me twice, shame on me. And I think that's kind of what Kevin Rudd's epitaph is going to be.
Hugh, if those are the numbers, how can Kevin Rudd run on the economy, or at least attempt to, by saying, even though on Friday we said unemployment's going to go up in the next 12 months, the future's rosy?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very difficult budget forecast for Bowen to give, and it is very difficult to build on. But, you know, let's have a look. We've still got, you know, low inflation, low unemployment figures, etc. So that's what we'd run on. Simple as that. Now, it's easy to say, oh, look, we've got, you know, this big budget deficit, etc. It's still one of the lowest in the OECD. And if you sit and you do nothing, like happened during the Howard years, then you're right, you're going to save lots of money. But things had to happen. Just like if your house is on fire, you've got to put it out and rebuild. And that's the same thing that happened here with the GFC.
Yeah, but they set fire to the house, though. Yeah, they're the ones who set fire to the house in the first place.
Hang on, Gary. Look, if you were right, the polls wouldn't be showing at the worst 52-48. A lot of people actually do believe this bloke. A lot of people do like him. My own view is he won't win. I think it's going to be too difficult. But what he'll do with the economy is say, look, I am the only honest politician in the world. I'm the only one who'll tell you how bad it is, and I'm the only one who'll tell you how tough it is to fix it. But if you go and ask Tony Abbott, he'll say nothing. He'll say, I've looked at politics all my life, I've been in this game, and I've just got sick of not telling the truth. Now, that may be a load of you-know-what, but that's what he'll say.
Hey, listen, mate, why... You know Kevin Rudd better than anyone on this panel. Why don't you like Kevin Rudd?
The first time I met Kevin Rudd, I think, was way back in the 80s at a meeting when he was working with Wayne Goss. And I remember going back to Bob Hawke and telling him what I thought of Kevin Rudd.
And what was that?
They weren't pleasant words. We had a disagreement, and I have to say Kevin and I are not close. And he probably has some colourful opinions about my good self, which he's entitled to do. But as far as I'm concerned, for the next 5 weeks, go Kevy. He's my mate.
Jeez, I wish we
won't hear a word about him. Won't hear a bad word about him. He's a great fella.
Look, I'm happy to make some comments about Rudd because I've had quite a bit to do with him the last few weeks, especially. Right? No, I've got to be honest with you. Like, he wasn't my choice of person a number of years ago at all. Right? I think I'm more a traditional Labor leader.
Anyone like
but
this bloke?
I tell you what, the last few weeks and the discussions we've had and the frankness of it, I'll back him 100% now.
He's changed.
You know,
48%
he has, mate. It's a whole different type of Rudd.
He's got a million followers on Twitter.
He still may not be the greatest person in some respects, and he's still, you know, like Graham says, there may be some things that aren't tolerant about him. But that said, geez, he's listening to his caucus. He's basically consulting a lot more, and people love him. Let's be honest, they love him.
You know what? I tell you, this bloke's changed. He announces the New Guinea solution because he's consultative, right? He announces the New Guinea solution, doesn't tell the Indonesian government or the president or the ambassador. Right? Doesn't tell him. He announces an expansion of the detention centre in Joel Fitzgibbon's seat. Poor old Joel Fitzgibbon sees it in the news. I mean, there's another 3 or 4 examples. Rudd has not changed. You people are treating the electorate like mugs, and they will see right through it. You don't like him.
You had lunch with him, and he loves him, and he's very happy. Extremely happy.
Can I just make an observation? It's funny how everything comes down to who we had lunch with and how they responded at lunch.
Hey, we're middle-aged.
I know that. I know it is. I know it's always been important to you, but
to my life, it's been extremely important.
This is the single easiest hour of television I've had to host. It's great. I've said welcome back and good luck. Now, Gary, I do want to ask you this though, because I think that there is one economic number, regardless of whether it has been informed by good circumstances or bad. But apart from the fact that John Howard was up against Mark Latham, he was able to win both houses of Parliament in 2004 on the simple subject of keep interest rates low. Now, they're already very low. There's a chance during this campaign they could go down again. And what do you reckon the chances are that even if they don't go down, that the words of John Howard will feature in an ALP ad sometime in the next 5 weeks? Because it was political gold for Howard, but supposedly electoral disaster for Rudd.
Yeah, well, if they do that, and, you know, they'll try anything. I mean, this is, what did Michael Kroger call it earlier today? The snowstorm strategy. They'll just keep flinging stuff all around and trying to change. Well, he might even announce he's going to St Petersburg and try and suckle the senior Canberra press gallery people with him in the last couple of days. I mean, he'll try anything. He'll try anything to try and throw people off their game. But look, and I think, Richo, by the way, I think you and I might have met him the same week, because I've known him since before Goss was elected, and I got to say to you that I don't think this bloke really gives a toss right now. I think he just wants to go through the motions. He's hoping someone will write something about him being a Labor legend or something after it's all said and done. But right now, I think this bloke will try and do anything. If interest rates go down again on Tuesday, it's because the Reserve Bank are trying to give a defibrillator heart start to the corpse of the economy. That's the reality. They've killed the economy. Of course they're going to have to lower interest rates.
Yeah, but Richo, I mean, you wouldn't imagine Liberal MPs running around saying that in 2004.
No, of course they won't. And I mean, I just...
But it wasn't like that in 2004.
Everything that Gary and Michael said,
I get it, but I'm saying...
I get it all. The trouble with it is, it's not how Australia views Kevin Rudd. What I think of him, what the elites think of him, what you think of him, doesn't really matter. It's what the mob think of him, and they like him. That's the problem that everybody's got. And like even Peter Reith said on Friday morning on AM Agenda when I was on with him, he said that he'd been to a big Liberal fundraiser on the Thursday evening.
They liked him
there
too.
are 1,000 there, and he said they are totally rattled. They don't know what to do.
Well, I was at that fundraiser, and that is complete and utter rubbish.
That is
yeah. No, I love Peter. Peter's a very good friend of mine, but I don't believe that for 1 minute. Look, what we know is this: those people, and Latham said it first. Our late lamented
well, then it must be right. I mean, good old Mark.
He's right.
He'd be right. Yeah,
he's right on this. He said those that know Rudd best hate him most, and those that don't know him like him because they haven't met him. Why is a third of the cabinet resigned? Why are we able to run, Graham, all those ads of Steve Conroy and every other man and his dog saying what a shocking individual this bloke is? No one forced them to the microphone.
Time out. Can we stop talking about Rudd and Abbott? Can we actually talk about what the bastards are going to do? Because I actually think that kind of matters a bit to a few people. As much as it might be they like him, Graham, it actually matters about what they are going to do to them.
But doesn't that context of whether they like... Sorry, you go.
But if they like him because they're accepting what he's going to do. There are a lot of people. Now, I don't think he'll win. I've already said that. Yeah. But the reality is out there, people like him. When he does go to shopping centres and the mass crowds come, they're not Labor faithful. As I was talking to one of the reporters who was up at Springwood in the Blue Mountains with him, and He said, there might have been 20 or 30 Labor faithful. Where the other couple of hundred come from? I mean, people go to him. They're drawn to him. Now, I can't understand. He's not charismatic. He's not Robert Redford looks. But they like him.
You talk about those
ads before, how they can run those
ads and put them in there, of what people have said before. People know what happened before. People know what the people who most of them have now left cabinet thought of him, and they don't care, right? And you're absolutely right. I mean, it isn't a matter of how many times have I seen MPs go to different stations and the railway stations, the shopping centres, and then a few people come up to them. Rudd is mobbed. When we took him to Fairfield, just before he tried to take out Gillard, it was mobbed. It took him an hour to move, 20 metres. It was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it.
Tony Abbott was mobbed.
I've never seen anything like it. Nothing. It's a huge barometer.
If you're
huge,
fooled
compared to
by
when you took Gillard out there, it was a different world.
If you're fooled by that, then you are treating the people like mugs.
Listen, you've got
to understand one thing about federal politics. It is far more important to be respected than liked. Popularity can be very fleeting, but respect tends to endure. People respected Howard all those years, even though he wasn't overwhelmingly the most popular Prime Minister of all time. He lost in the end, as we know, after a long period in government. Howard was always respected. Rudd, if you think shopping centre popularity is an indication of how people are going to vote, then you are fooling yourself. God, as we know, Paul Keating was mobbed.
What should happen, Mike? Paul Keating was mobbed by those schoolgirls. In 1996, those schoolgirls mobbed Keating.
Walking across the street in Parramatta and having OMC girls go to the gate, because I was there. That is nothing compared to what happens with Rudd, right?
Gary's up in Brisbane feeling slightly left out of all of this.
Well,
Gary?
no. I mean, it's okay. It's fine. There's lots of clean air up here in Brisbane. I mean, there is. But let me tell you, Paul, I was with John Howard and Ross Vasta, the member for Bonner, and Andrew Laming, the member for Bowman and others, in 2007 at Garden City Shopping Centre, the Thursday night before the Saturday that John Howard and I both lost our seats. Let me tell you, he was mobbed. There were thousands of people. There were kids being photographed with him. It was like, please kiss my baby, please shake my hand. People do that. They like the theatre, they like the fun. In some countries, you don't get to meet your politicians. And in places like Fairfield, which I know really well, the fact that they're actually seeing a national leader and a personality would be excitement enough. But look, when it's all said and done, Jason's right. What is this mob going to do to us? That's the problem. Fooled me once, shame on you. Fooled me twice, shame on me. That's really where we're at in this election.
Now I will say this though. We're here for another hour after this. It's a 90-minute version of the show, so we will get into policy and all that shortly. But this is the fun stuff at the start. Ken, have you got any questions for the panel? That's pretty easy. It's at PM on air. But I do have to say this though. But Richo, about that the popularity factor and a lot being made of the fact of the disapproval rate of Rudd. Obviously, if popularity was the sole barometer, it would be High Five would be running for Parliament because they can pack out a shopping centre and a dancing cat on the internet does pretty well. But does it matter about Tony Abbott to this point where he has been a negative, but basically he has been a negative that people haven't cared about because they just wanted to get rid of Gillard?
That's correct. I mean, that's why it's changed. That's why Labor won't lose 40 seats. They might lose 10, they might lose a dozen, but they won't lose 40 because Gillard's not there anymore. And people were just queuing up to get rid of her. There was a hatred there that I'd actually never quite seen before, which I didn't think was all that good in terms of the way we're conducting ourselves as a nation.
Graham, do you reckon it was her or was it what she did?
No, it's her. I think that the carbon tax promise really haunted her. She couldn't get away from that. But
that's what she did.
It got to the stage where people didn't like her manner. And I can't tell you that, because I can't use the language on television, but people come up to me in the street and what they'd say about it was unbelievable. They don't say it about Rudd. I mean, yeah, sure, some of his colleagues do, but they don't out there. Look, I agree, though, as a general point, shopping centres aren't the only indication, but you can't say they're nothing either. I mean, he's obviously a substantial person. Gillard couldn't get anything like the reaction he gets. And that's why he'll do well, because a lot of people like him. In my view, over the course of the campaign, he should drop a bit, because obviously the record of the government can't be ignored forever.
Right, now I'm going to lose you, Richo, in a couple of minutes because you've been here for a little while. But I want to speak to both of you blokes and use your big brains about, OK, if there was... We know where the polls are going and let's just take some wild prediction times. As a headline of things, Michael Kroger, what do you think will be the result or something close to it in 33 days?
Well, with all the usual caveats, I tend to think my macro view, Paul, is that Rudd's popularity will ebb away. And we saw Chris Kenny give a teaser of the news poll at the end of his show just half an hour ago, where he said Rudd's popularity, he said the coalition are in front and Rudd's personal popularity has dropped. Now, I never take too much notice of the preferred leader poll because it's been wrong so often in the past. But the best thing going for Labor is Rudd's current popularity, and as I said, I think it's fleeting. So I think if Rudd's popularity starts to decline, Labor's vote will hemorrhage very badly. So I expect Tony Abbott to win. He deserves to win. The main problem Rudd has is his history, but at the same time you can't run a campaign saying, what's the slogan, a new way? Or
new way. When
you can't say basically the last 6 years didn't happen. We're starting again. You can't do that. So I expect Tony to win. I think the coalition will win 3 seats in Victoria. And they've got to hold the line in Queensland. I think they'll win a few in New South Wales.
Well, this is what I wanted to show just before Richo leaves us, which is the places where Michael believes the Libs are the best hope, and the places that are going to be nerve-wracking. Let's first have a look at the potential good news here for what Michael believes might be the case for the Liberal Party. Have a look at some of these seats and work us through these and why.
OK, well, Coringamite is the most marginal seat. The Labor member there has been very prominent supporting Kevin Rudd. He doesn't have a high profile locally. Sarah Henderson, the Liberal candidate there, is former lawyer. Brilliant candidate, Sarah. She's a friend of mine. She's done a phenomenal job. I don't think Corangamite can be held by Labor. I'd be very surprised if they were able to win that one. She's been campaigning very hard. They didn't like Gillard down there, and I don't think Rudd's popularity translates to a rural, semi-rural seat like Corangamite down in the south of Victoria. So I think they'll win. I think the coalition will win that seat. I also think they're going to win the seat of Deakin, an inner-city marginal seat, and also Jason Wood's seat of Latrobe. To the ones where we're most likely to suffer defeats. If you said to me, well, where do you think the Liberals are at risk? Well, obviously you have to go to Queensland and you have to go to Brisbane because that's where Rudd is. Current polling shows Labor are doing better there. There's a large number of marginal seats in Queensland, so that's Kevin Rudd's best hope. So
it's all about Queensland as the threat, but there's enough in Victoria, and the independents flip in New South Wales.
Yeah, correct. We'll win those two. And look, I'd be very surprised if Labor were able to hold the bell. I mean, Labor have had such bad publicity in Craig Thomson's seat for so long. They could put Gough Whitlam up or anyone up there, and I think people would say, mate, we're so sick of the Labor Party in de Bell, you ain't having this seat back again, and they'll vote Liberal.
Yeah. All right, Richo, same question here about where do you see Labor's best hopes and where's the worries?
Well, I think I agree that anything in Queensland is more likely to be a victory for Labor than anywhere else. I think there's an audience for Rudd in Queensland. There's 2 seats. Brisbane's one of them on just 1.1 or something. Another one's on 2%. There's a few that Labor might pick up there, and I would hope that they do. However, when you get to New South Wales, there's a few that can be lost, and I agree. I think it would be really hard to hold O'Bill. I know it's 5%. But Craig Thomson has been, shall we say, in the news for the last couple of years. And I don't think there's too many people in O'Bill who missed it, you know?
Yeah, I love that line. It's been in the news. All right, but what about the other ones? Where are the worries, though?
Well, I think in New South Wales you'd have to worry about Lindsay, you'd have to worry about Greenway. There are 2 seats in the far western suburbs of Sydney where obviously Labor's struggling. I think we won Greenway, 300 votes or something here? Something like that was touch and go, so you'd have to say that's a worry. Lindsay, I mean, some people have been running a phenomenal campaign against the member for Lindsay, the shadow treasurer. I can't believe some of the language that's been used, but you know, he'd be a show. Now, actually, Labor's internal polling suggests that Banks might be 50-50 now, but again, I expect that'll drop off a bit in the campaign, so I think Banks is another one that'd be in strife. In Victoria,
Richard, sorry, just remind us, Banks is who? Banks is
Daryl Mellon.
Daryl Mellon. Okay, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
I don't believe that Labor's going to do very well in Victoria. I think there's always a bit of the home state stuff. So we had a Victorian Prime Minister dumped for a Queenslander. I think that is going to react on Labor, and I don't expect a great result in Victoria. And yet last time that was obviously Labor's strongest hand. I didn't put them on there. The other thing I should mention is I think Labor's likely to lose a couple in Tasmania as well.
Okay, right. Richo, thank you very much. We know you're back at about 7 o'clock tomorrow morning here, so thank you for your efforts today.
Pleasure.
And make sure you watch him Wednesday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, where I'll be here with Alan Jones, Richo and Jones, the once-a-month fun fest that you can see here on Sky News. We'll take a break, continue with the rest of the panel, and your thoughts, including what is your priorities 1, 2, 3, that will determine your vote. Jump onto Facebook and we'll be back in a sec.